Paint Care is all about keeping it simple for Oregonians. They make recycling leftover paint, stain, and varnish easy with convenient locations like your local paint store. Paint Care has 3 simple rules for painting smarter and reducing waste. 1, buy the right amount of paint for the job. 2, use up what's left. And 3, recycle the rest. Learn more or find a paint drop-off site near you at paintcare.org/3simplerules.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 up front for 3 months plus taxes and fees. Promo rate for new customers for limited time. Unlimited more than 40 gigabytes per month. Slows full terms at mintmobile.com.
Today on CityCast Portland, we're talking about City Commissioner and mayoral candidate Rene Gonzalez using thousands of taxpayer dollars to spruce up his Wikipedia page, the epic battle between wake boats and dragon boats on the Willamette River, and a recovery home coming under fire for sprouting up unannounced in a residential neighborhood. Joining me on this week's Friday News Roundup are Willamette Week reporter Brianna Wheeler and our very own executive producer John Notarianni. It's Friday, August 9th. I'm Claudia Meza, and this is what Portland's talking about. Welcome, everyone, to the Friday News Roundup. Brianna, John, thank you for hanging out with me this morning.
Hey, Claudia.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Brianna, we've missed you.
Oh, I missed you too. Wait.
For all of our new listeners, today is the day we break down some of the biggest local stories of the week with some of the best and brightest journalists in town. But before we jump into the news, I usually ask an opening question so our listeners can get to know our guests a little better. And today's is a continuation of a mailbag note we read out loud in our midweek roundup this week. Johnny, you'll probably remember this. Brianna, so this is what happened. Lieutenant Sean Fogarty, public information officer at Portland Fire Rescue, wrote in to tell us what kinds of snacks firefighters are given when they're out fighting larger blazes. We speculated on what they could be eating like a couple weeks ago during our conversation about the Ross Island fire, because I found out what the difference was between a 2-alarm fire, a 3-alarm fire. And we found out that a big difference is that the bigger the blaze, they get snack trucks.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. So Lieutenant Fogarty informed us the snack trucks are actually, by the way, I was calling them snack trucks, and he's like, so rehab unit, and they include air, water, Gatorade, coffee, and Cliff Bars, which was a little disappointing to hear because I was expecting like a craft service situation for them, like, you know, like on film or a TV production. So this leads me to our opening question. If you two were given the task of stocking our firefighters' rehab trucks, what kind of snacks would you stock for them?
I think we need like sort of salty, sweet balance, right? Okay. So for like sort of salty, crunchy, I think we should get them like a Juanita's buffet with just like a couple different types of like Juanita's tortilla chips and then like some salsa, maybe a little guacamole. And then like if you're a firefighter, it's really hot. I think they need like some sort of an ice cream sandwich type situation, maybe like a set of Klondike bars. You know, just kids, like, how cute would that be? Like, he or she comes off from fighting a fire, and they're all sweaty, and they have, like, a little ice cream sandwich. And it just raises their spirits.
Yeah, that would be amazing. What about you, Brianna?
Very much on the same page with you, John. But I don't think that ice cream sandwiches would work well in a fire situation because it's going to be so hot, and that shit's going to melt in their hands. So I suggest we get boxes of moon pies and we freeze the moon pies.
This
right?
is going somewhere.
Yeah.
So, and then we also we've got, because Portland, we have vegetarian option or vegan option and then a meat option. And the easiest way to do that is to get a carne asada burrito, and a falafel. And both of those things are very filling, and you can just jam them in your face real fast, just eat them real fast, get that frozen moon pie, and then back to work, fight the fire.
They're going to fall asleep in that fire. They are curling up and taking a nap. They're going to let that fire take them. All right. Okay, so for sure, I'm with John. I get what you're saying because I don't think they're going to go back in the fire and eat their food. So I think some kind of frozen treat. I'm thinking like a fire rescue fruit juice slushy or a frozen yogurt soft serve. I'm leaning towards the healthier side, John, because I care. But I also think that something fun would be like musubi, which I don't know if you guys know what musubi is. It's like this Japanese rice ball that has like meats and whatever you want inside wrapped in seaweed. It's freaking delicious. It was made for Japanese soldiers. So I think it kind of carries on that tradition of like people under fire doing work, you know?
I like that.
My favorite is Spam musubi. And I love musubi so much. And we barely have any places to buy them here that I was like, oh no, if I were a firefighter, I might start some fires. Like, I'd be like, there's musubi.
Claudia just shows up at the spot, be like, hey, what you guys eating? What, you got any extra? You got just hanging around the perimeter. Be like,
You don't
"Can I
like
have some?"
Spam? I'll eat it. I know a lot of people don't like Spam. I'll try it. You know that lieutenant's just like, I should have never reached out to them. Did she just say she was going to start fires? God damn it. All right.
Or Spam.
Only half joking. All right. On to the news of the week. Brianna, what are you looking at?
Well, today I am looking at a piece by Shane Dixon Kavanaugh at the Oregonian. And this piece covers, I want to call it hot tea. It feels like hot tea. Rene Gonzalez apparently spent $6,400 taxpayer dollars to edit his Wikipedia page. Yes. So I have edited Wikipedia pages before. I used to work in SEO. You never had to pay me $6,400 to do that. Yes. So Gonzalez, his office hired a New York firm, which he didn't even keep it local, that's beside the point, but
Yeah, we have nerds here.
we have like so many. Anyway, so he hires this firm, or his staff hires this firm. It's White Hat Wiki. It's out of New York. Gonzalez's chief of staff, Shaw Smith, really put 10 toes down and like stood up on this and said, and I quote, "Political opponents working against change are sophisticated and look to distort events and their significance. And that means being innovative in how we manage our public profile." Okay. So no other commissioners, or the mayor for that matter, have paid to have their Wikipedia pages manipulated. So let's get into it and talk about what he wanted changed. There were 8 changes proposed. Only 4 were approved by a volunteer editor, I might add, that did not get paid because that's how Wikipedia works.
Risalki? I just love I'm going to say their name out loud because it's going to come up a lot. Risalki.
Risalki. Bless them. Yes.
Yeah, bless you.
Also, I just want to mention to the listeners that Wikipedia does publish their edit histories. So you can absolutely go to Rene's Wikipedia page and see exactly what they asked to have changed and see what was changed, what wasn't changed, and why those things weren't changed, because that's the most interesting part. But I'm just going to quickly brief it. He wanted his law degree added to his info box. That was approved. He wanted some little language changed from being a registered Democrat to just a Democrat. That was approved. He wanted Sam Adams to get his flowers. Sam Adams was mentioned as a former city commissioner. He wanted him to be referenced as a former mayor. That was approved. And he wanted his Wikipedia page to mention him and Mayor Wheeler's 2023 drug criminalization effort. We wanted that recognized on the page. All of those were approved. $6,400 worth of approvals right there. But the real story is what got denied. A couple of them were just kind of semantics, and they were denied because they were just kind of semantics and really making that big of a difference. But the 2 that really stuck out is that Gonzalez wanted his father's Mexican-American heritage to be mentioned right up top. So that is mentioned in his Wikipedia page, down in his personal life section where it belongs. But he really wanted Mexican-American right up there above the fold. So I'm just going to let the listeners interpret that however they would like to. And this is the real big one that they wanted removed. When Rene was elected, he was thanking people through tweet that were like big-upping him on Twitter or X, whatever. So he sent a thank you tweet to a Patriot Prayer member, and he wants that scrubbed. The rationale for them wanting this little bit of Rene Gonzalez trivia removed from the Wikipedia page is that because it was written by the Portland Mercury. That's why. Mm-hmm. Because it's an alternative newspaper, I'm quoting here, that blends opinion and advocacy into most of its stories. The article cited here is a self-evident opinion piece, part of a weekly op-ed column by the editor of the paper. Gonzalez was not given an opportunity to respond to the sensationalistic allegation, a clear indication that this is editorial commentary. So they were calling bias on the Mercury's portrayal of that event. And our beloved Wikipedia editor was like, man, take that someplace else. Get out of here. It says it is already defined as opinion in your Wikipedia page. Get out of here with that. So I guess long story short, Rene Gonzalez spent $6,400 of our taxpayer money to try to convince us that he did not send a thank you to a Proud Boy, only to have that denied. And now we know it even more. Now we're talking about it even more. So yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think?
Clearly, like total Streisand effect.
Oh yeah, totally.
Type of situation where you try and do a little tweak and it just inflames.
But can I give you the real quote of what Rusalki, the editor, wrote? This was I laughed so hard. And they wrote, I agree this source is sketchy, talking about but it is in fact attributed intact as opinion rather than a fact. And the Portland Mercury being dubbed sketchy by a volunteer wiki edit did make me cry laugh a little.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Like, I love my Portland Mercury peeps, but like, it was so good. We're like, yeah, but
Yeah.
But I also just fell into a wiki revision history hole on his profile, and this was one of the best deleted entries written under personal life, because of course, as John said, Streisand effect. As soon as Shane published this, everyone ran to his wiki page and
that's right.
over 50 entries.
Oh my gosh.
All on Wednesday. And this was, here's some highlights here. A deleted entry written under his personal life. He may or may not know how to break dance, parentheses, likely not. Basically, what? Yeah. There's also this title, which I screenshot. It includes his title being changed to Dork and the Worst. So it says Dork, Rene Gonzalez, City Commissioner, the Worst.
Oh my God.
But I will say that one of the edits that does seem to have stuck is a new entry under controversies, which reads, on August 7th, 2024, the Oregonian reported that Gonzalez spent $6,400 of city taxpayer dollars to hire a contractor to make edits to his Wikipedia page in an effort to, quote unquote, spruce up his profile as part of his mayoral bid. So, nice one, guys.
The internet remains undefeated. Oh, I love it.
It's something that is funny to me about all of this is like, Rene Gonzalez is in a mayoral campaign. Of course, he's going to do everything that he can to sort of bolster his image and like anywhere that the public is going to interact with him to try and put himself in his best light. So like, it's not that surprising that this is something that he wanted. But of everybody who is running for mayor, I feel like Gonzalez is the one person who has no shortage of coverage out there about him. You know what I mean, Claudia? Like we went through, we did research on all of the mayoral candidates and like by and far, there are the most news clips about Gonzalez. There are the most times where he put himself into the center of the spotlight in terms of news. It's just there's already way more information out about him on like a very simple Google search than any other candidate. So
I will say, though, that what I did notice was that he was trying to cull anything that seemed conservative or Republican from his profile. And I think that that's what he's trying to do, because even he did get mention of like some sort of like anti-trans relationship out of his profile, because I don't know if you guys know this. He organized this political action committee, ED 300.
That was about reopening schools, right?
Yeah, well, it's not just that. They've also endorsed candidates that come from like Oregon Family Council, Oregon Right to Life, which I mean, you can connect the dots. But before it said that they sponsored candidates that were anti-trans. So wanted that language out and just put the actual anti-trans organizations in there. Because I think there's just more things to jump through then, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm not saying that Commissioner Gonzalez is anti-trans. I'm just saying that's the glaring thing he wanted out, you know?
Yep. Yeah.
So, yeah. He did spruce it up a little bit, I have to say.
Oh my gosh. Well, Rusalki, volunteer Wikipedia editor, true Portland hero of the week.
Hats off.
Well, I do want to say we should pour one out because we should pour a few out for Rusalki because they now have a very, very difficult job because of Shane's article.
All the knuckleheads trying to...
Yeah, I'm sure the revisions are still coming.
Oh my gosh.
Well, Brianna, thank you so much. I knew it was going to be one of my favorite headlines, and it was. Well, let's take a quick break here, and when we come back, more headlines of the week.
Hey, it's John from CityCast Portland. Let's face it, sometimes bad stuff happens. A serious injury, a catastrophic accident, even a wrongful death. It can really turn your world upside down. And when it does, you deserve unwavering support from a dedicated team. Yeah, you need a lawyer. D'Amour Law Group has over 30 years of experience protecting the rights of Oregonians. Their team of skilled attorneys, led by the renowned trial lawyer Tom D'Amour, will work tirelessly to make sure your voice is heard and your rights are protected. Here's what one of his clients said. Tom fights for his clients from the first day they meet him through the last day of trial. So if you need help holding those responsible for your injuries accountable, contact D'Amour Law Group at 503-222-6333 or visit d'amourlaw.com to schedule a free consultation. They're committed to fighting for the justice and compensation you deserve right here in Portland.
Think you know the Brooks Ghost? Think again. Introducing the all-new, better-than-ever Ghost 16. Now with nitrogen-infused cushioning for lightweight, supreme softness that feels good every step, every street, every single day. So go ahead, take your daily joyride in the all-new nitrogen-infused Ghost 16. It'll turn your everyday miles into everyday endorphins. Let's run there. Head to brooksrunning.com to learn more.
Well, this week I'm looking at an article written by Willamette Week's Anthony Effinger about a little-known scourge of the Willamette River, the wake boat. John, I know you've been boating on the river, but Brianna, what's your relationship with Willamette like?
No, it's gross to me. No, I have absolutely been on the river on a vehicle, and I did put my feet in it once, and then I felt so gross afterwards. But yeah, I've ridden in the yacht tub. I rode a yacht tub once.
Nice. Okay, so here's the one thing that every motorized boater and jet skier should know when recreating in a busy river like the Willamette, and that's where the no-wake zones are located. No-wake zones, if you don't know, are just that, places on the river where you can't make wakes or waves. So if you're on any kind of motorized water vessel, you slow to a crawl. And it's not like you have to guess where these zones are at, because usually they have very prominent no-wake zone signs within like 100 to 200 feet of docks, marinas, and houseboats. And that's because a big-ass wave could severely damage anything just hanging around docked on the water. You know, it'll bang up against it. And so property is one big reason we have wake zones, but the other is paddle boat safety. No wake zones are basically one of the few places paddle boats are safe to go out without fear of being swamped or tipped over. Like a single kayaker could possibly handle like a really gnarly wake, but a canoe or a dragon boat could just take on too much water and tip over. Also, smaller boats that are anchored by marinas or coves could also get swamped and sink. Like, do you guys remember a few years ago when there were those boats parades for Donald Trump and that ripped through our part of the Willamette and they were ignoring all the wake zones and all these boats sunk? Some of them were part of the MAGA regalia. Do you remember this shit?
I do. And I've forgotten about it, but now that you bring it back into something I blocked out of my consciousness. But yes, I do now stupid. Remember. Thanks for reminding me of that.
Yeah,
Dumb
woo, memories.
scene.
So using that same visual, imagine a boat literally called a wake boat, making waves large enough to surf on, just ripping through these no-wake zones. And this brings me to the series of stories that Anthony wrote about these wake boats tormenting local dragon boaters. And he honed in on dragon boaters especially because earlier this month, about 50 of them packed a Multnomah County Board of Commissioners meeting to protest the sheriff's supposed lack of enforcement of these no-wake zone laws. So dragon boaters have reported that wake boaters intentionally swamp and capsize their boats, that they've gotten dangerously close, like buzzed them, and then flipped them off as they laugh and speed off like a supervillain from an 80s movie. And if you're not aware, Portland has a really strong dragon boating community. There are teams with cute names like Wasabi and Tilikum Dragons, and there's races and meetups and all that. And they've testified that during one of these wake boat encounters, a dragon boat team member hit their head and went under. And I just want to state that a dragon boat tipping over is not a normal occurrence. So it's considered a safe water sport. And there are dragon boat team members that are visually impaired, are senior citizens recovering from cancer. So these are the people hitting the water or getting launched off their boats because it's not just a tip over, a large wave will send you flying. And according to their reports, this kind of behavior has been happening for years. With the sheriff who's in charge of the river patrol units, supposedly just like looking the other way or simply just not caring anything about it. Again, that's what they're stating. So Willamette Week went on the water with a dragon boat last week to confirm for themselves. And they reported that, yes, they did see a wake boat completely towing and ripping it up in a no-wake zone. But they didn't say anything about getting flipped off. But what are you guys thinking?
This is so annoying. I mean, I think one of the things that's really special about downtown Portland is that we have this river and that there is that type of recreation on it. Mm-hmm. I'm hard-pressed to think of another city that has that type of a waterway that is safe and clean enough for recreation.
Clean enough, Brianna.
In which we have a few CityCast Portland episodes to direct you towards, Brianna.
I know, Brianna. But don't worry, we'll send it to you.
But it's really special. And like, what sort of a freaking jerk do you have to be like, I want to go make a bunch of waves on my wake boat and like knock over someone in like a kayak or a dragon boat? I mean, that's just evil. Ugh.
Law enforcement isn't doing anything about it. Are there any kind of like Red Beret type of vigilante groups that are like, we'll take care of this?
Yeah, but they're really slow.
It's like me on a kayak, shaking my fist.
You punks!
Get back here! Well, the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office says that it just has 11 deputies in its river patrol unit to cover 110 miles of waterway. That's one of their as I stated, the dragon boaters keep insisting that they look the other way. But at least one wake boater says the same thing. This is amazing. Anthony Effinger found this in It was testimony to support a state Senate bill introduced this year that would have repealed many of the laws governing wake boats that they don't already adhere to. So this wake boater, David Yasnoff, said he couldn't tow surfers because his boat exceeds weight limits and because surfing is banned on the upper Willamette. He wanted that changed, of course. And he wrote, "The sheriff's deputies don't do anything to stop us. I politely explained to them that we're going to continue surfing and we don't mean any disrespect. We've just decided to carry on with our family fun as an act of peaceful civil disobedience. We were delighted to discover the sheriff has no problem with this. They simply don't support the law and won't enforce it as long as surfers stay in what was formerly the surf zones." And he's talking about a new rule to the Willamette, which that from May through September, when the river is crowded, boats can't tow surfers, wake boaters, or skiers anywhere between the Hawthorne Bridge and the Waverly Marina. That's a good stretch. And that's basically dragon boat territory.
Yeah, it sounds like the wake boaters need to go back and brush up on their Henry David Thoreau. I do not think that's what civil disobedience is.
Oh my God. He's like, civil rights for wake boaters. It's like, buddy, calm down. It's a $300,000 boat. I think you're doing fine. That's the other thing. Wake boats are so expensive, you guys. So these are like rich. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it, but I want everyone else to connect their fucking dots. I don't want any emails today. But yes, rich boat owners who just don't care about anybody else but their own family, their own fun. And I personally believe them when they say that they're super, like they're 80s supervillains. I believe it. I'm just like, oh yeah, who else would own a wake boat? A really cool guy.
I think my summarizing thought of like big ideas about boats, dragon boating looks really hard.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of respect for those people because that looks hard.
Yeah, a lot of upper body strength, right?
I want to know what our dragon boat name would be. We'll have to think about it. Everybody think about it.
Next time, Brianna. That's the question at the top.
The 80s movie villains.
The 80s movie film.
We all bleach our hair and we push it back.
We're going to need an Oakley's budget.
Yes, Oakley blades.
Only if I get to wear it behind my head.
Oh, yes.
Brianna's in it. She's like, all right, I'm in this. I'm in the boat.
I love it.
Well, John, what are you looking at this week?
Yeah, I'm looking at a pretty complicated story from Lucas Manfield over at Willamette Week, looking at a company called We Care. This is a for-profit company that is offering mental health and addiction treatment services paired with temporary housing, right? So we know that Oregon has a real shortage of sort of transitional housing for people who are trying to sort of bounce back from homelessness or addiction. Well, there's this company, and they ended up buying a house in Northeast Portland, in the neighborhood Wilkes, and converted it into a sober living home. Right? Sort of transitional housing. And the thing that's interesting about it is that like this is being paid for via Medicaid and like programs like that to support people who are dealing with a qualifying mental illness or substance abuse disorder. These organizations can apply for federal money and use it to pay for things like short-term rent. This is something that we've reported on the show before several months ago of sort of using Medicaid to support housing because this is something that people really need when they're going through these types of transitions. But the thing that's crazy is that there isn't really a clear requirement of certification for these houses. So the people who live in this neighborhood where this house just sort of popped up, you know, there's 12 or so people that are sort of in this transitional housing space. And they're like, wait, where did this come from? Like who's in charge of this? And I feel like I can have a lot of sympathy on all sides of this issue.
Yeah.
What type of certification are you referring to? Like, they don't have any? What would they need?
Yeah, so according to Lucas's article, there isn't a government agency that officially mandates registration of recovery homes, right? So, like, there are laws in Oregon about congregate housing and, you know, registering places that provide service and support, but, like, it's not clear whether this house falls under those laws. In Lucas's article, he said the Oregon Health Authority spokesperson said they were actually deliberating on this question. So, like, you know, if you're going to set up a clinic, for instance, there is requirements of how you register it with like the state and the federal government, but those laws just don't exist for this type of housing. So it's sort of like a loophole, which isn't surprising. We've been in this situation where we've been trying to react very quickly in terms of just the need for recovery housing. And we are finding these little like loopholes in places where there are gaps in the existing law. And this is one of them.
So this place functions as like a halfway house?
Basically a halfway house, yeah.
Which would fall under congregate housing.
Yeah, and there is some ambiguity there. Like, basically, they still can't decide whether it applies to recovery homes like the ones that we're talking about right now.
The reason why congregate housing has laws on the books is because in 2015, a man walked out of an unlicensed Hillsborough treatment facility managed by like a local nonprofit, raped a 21-year-old woman at knife point, and then sexually abused an 11-year-old girl, both who lived nearby. And the neighbors were like, we didn't know this place existed. They don't have any supervision. What's going on? So OHA was like, okay, we're going to start licensing these quote-unquote congregate houses. But no matter what, the article says that the law isn't being enforced anyway, despite new fines for noncompliance being introduced in 2021. not a single of these congregate housing facilities is currently registered with the state. So because it's like we're talking about two different things. We're talking about congregate housing, and we're talking about the thing that we're talking about, which they're calling recovery housing. And what people are confused about is like how they're getting regulated. And what I'm saying is it doesn't matter if you're calling it congregate or recovery, none of them are getting really looked over. But the other thing that people were a little worried about is that this is an out of town funding source. And the man who controls the limited liability company that owns, is it WeCare?
Yeah.
WeCare has been sued twice by Arizona homeowner associations that say one of his halfway houses played music too loudly, and another housed a sex offender. So as John was saying, there's a lot of NIMBYism that's happening. And I hate being like NIMBY because, a neighborhood should have a right to at least a conversation of what's going into their neighborhood. But there seems to be a lot of elevated concern, but you can also see where it's coming from.
Yeah.
And I will also say that Lucas very much reported that the people who have gone through this, I think it's a 3-month program, there have been success stories. People have been like, I owe my life to this program. So it's working in certain areas, but the thing is that there's always going to be bad actors, and there really should be regulations for these bad actors.
Yeah, I want to throw in the subhead of Lucas's article was a direct quote from one of the neighbors. Said, quote, "This shit would never happen in the West Hills," which I think we can read into what the implications there are as well.
But I can also see a conversation not had, Yeah. Because that's the thing. The neighbors were just nobody told us. All of a sudden, we just saw all these people holding sleeping stuff pillows and whatever, walking into a house that used to be previously squatted. The house was condemned, basically. And now all of a sudden, all these people are coming in. We have no idea what's going on. We're hearing really loud music. People are just milling around, randomly coming up to us and asking us for food. You know what I mean? Just stuff where they're just who are you guys?
For a can opener. The article said that the individual offered to pay for. Yeah.
$60 for a can opener because he was desperate to bake a sweet potato pie, and the house minder, who is their keeper, typically drove them to the store and they were asleep. But what I'm saying is that if I were the neighbor, I'd be concerned. I would just be like, I'm sorry, you want to pay me $60 for a can opener so you can bake a pie at 4 a.m? Not, you know what I mean?
It's I've been there.
But still, you know what I mean? I'm just I am concerned right now.
I mean, my read on it is okay, it does sound like there is a sort of gap in the state program of registering these, just having a registry, just having a list, just having some sort of fundamental standards for when these are being run by third-party organizations and receiving money through Medicaid programs. Because that's the other thing. The state is looking at expanding how people are able to use Medicaid in the fall. And part of that is that it's going to make it easier for organizations to use Medicaid funding to provide short-term housing. So this is something that could continue to grow once that law comes into effect. Just create a registry. It seems super straightforward. And on the other hand, I feel we've talked so much, especially in the wake of Measure 110, about how there just has not been enough recovery housing, that these things have not come online, that the state is just not able to move fast enough, that there's red tape. And the idea of these third-party organizations being able to pop up and do it. And, it is anecdotal reporting, but according to the anecdotal reporting, it really creating a difference in people's lives is oh, shit, that's a program that is working, that really could help people. So just let your neighbors know,
Just have a conversation.
Let your neighbors know.
Jesus.
My gosh.
Bring that sweet potato pie over when you move in. Yeah.
I feel the registry is not going to happen until someone dies. And I don't mean the people living in these houses are going to commit crimes. I'm thinking I fear for them. If it's not registered, who's in there? What happens? What if they're something happens to them? How do we know that they're okay? How is a family going to get answers? Do you see what I'm saying? It's not just think about the neighborhood. It's these people are in one of the most fragile moments of their life. They need to be taken care of.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me, Brianna, John. I still think that we should dragon boat. I think that there is a future for us.
Are dragon boats like the normal rowing boats when there's someone who sits there and doesn't do the rowing?
I think so.
Can I be that guy?
You want to be that guy?
Yeah.
Brianna, do you want to be that guy?
No, I want to sit in the back of the boat and smoke weed.
So we're going to have two of those guys. All right, I guess it's me and Julia.
No, you should sit in the front because it's a dragon, Brianna, and then you can
right.
blow it out through the
Yes,
dragon.
I want to be the masthead. Can I be the masthead?
Julia, you better start working out. It's just you and me, buddy.
Julia, you're rowing.
I'm loving this dragon boat. Our team would be called the Really Cool Guys, and our masthead would have sunglasses on.
Oakleys.
Oakley blades.
Oh, I'm sorry, Julie just wrote, that boat's gonna sink. Okay. That's all for today here on CityCast Portland. Thank you so much for listening. Our executive producer is John Notarianni. Our producers this week are Julia Fiaioni, Francisco Kilgore, and Selena C.A. Reynolds. Our Hey Portland newsletter editor is Rachel Monahan, with contributions from Rene Gonzalez, and our host is me, Claudia Meza. Original music by Jenny Conley and Stephen Drizos. Additional music by Epidemic Sound and All the Kimonos. We'll be back Monday morning with more from around the city. Until then, see you at Slim's.